Whoa, no, 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 no. Airless Minx of the Blue Sea. How's it going with y'all, man? We back at it again. Better late than never, right? Just conflicting schedules. I wanted to talk to y'all on Friday, and then I even thought about because I'm going to start doing probably maybe Wednesdays or Thursdays, depending on even if we're not on break. Start doing prediction videos. I was doing that originally in the beginning, but I kind of got off of that. But I want to get back into the habit of that, especially like I said, a lot of things, um, because of where the anime is right now, it just re-sparks your interest. Because I reread a lot as it is, but man, with Chad in time, yeah, you guys already know what time it is. So just wanted to let y'all know about that. Start looking out for that. So I'll probably start having 2 videos a week again, like it used to be in the beginning. Just because of the way my free time works now with scheduling. But anyway, let's start off with the cover. And she's driving me out of my mind. Miss her, kiss her, love her. Rage you is poison. Uh, poison, poison. Never trust a jumper 66 who don't get DMCA'd. Don't get me belted both, you know. But yeah, look, man, I'm not with the bestiality, cross species, you know, and all that other good stuff. As far as that, and the minks I understand, right, because of how their genetic biology functions. You can have a rabbit and a turtle and get a dog, you know, but something tells me human and scorpion would just give you a weaker version of a smile fruit. We already have that, so I ain't mad at him for shooting his shot though. Of course, we pick up where we left off, and Luffy is throwing him hands on Kaido, and I think we all know usually it doesn't matter if you're a main character, so on and so forth, when you're fighting a stronger opponent and all these, you know, multiple attacks, right? We all know where this usually ends up. You end up getting clapped, and it's gonna happen soon. We already seen what happened towards the end of this chapter, which I'll get to, but it's usually not a good sight. It's a good sign for us as far as progression and you know where he was about a week ago. I mean, it was longer than that, but you get my point. During the first interaction, he couldn't put a scratch on him, other than being in dragon form, which I've said time after time I find weak. In comparison to where the supernova are at now, not the rest of the world, just where they're at, it wouldn't be enough without him really going max OD, and we haven't seen him do that yet. Which in normal dragon form, I just don't think he can or he doesn't have to, or there's a specific reason why he probably uses each form. That's just what I would think, like any other zone, right? Um, Same with Logias that have transformations and uh, stuff like that, or fruits that alter their physical appearance or ability. I guess that's probably a more accurate way of putting it. And we see Kaido get dropped again. And something I've been bringing up with Big Mom about how reputation is more important to her than most things that we've seen, other than food related incidents and Germa's technology and acquiring the One Piece. She's very rarely ever super serious about anything. But one thing that seems consistent in this fight, and I've said, you know, the past couple of chapters, and it may come up later, um, is Big Mom is not okay with how Kaido looks against the supernova. Now, we see later on in this chapter, she's more of a, oh, we're having fun now. But every time, I don't know if that's just like a comedic thing, but you know, the 3 times so far that Big Mom said something, it's kind of like, hey, you know, you're making Yako look weak. And not like she's saying that directly, but just the thought, right, of someone even pushing over Yako in her mind, it's like, could drive her a little on the off beaten path, right? That I'm not saying she's going to go into Lin rage mode or something, but it could be something that keeps popping up until we get a backstory, right? Because if it, you notice all the things that Big Mom was focused on about the Straw Hats, besides getting Zeus back, and running into Brooke possibly, she is upset about what her reputation looked like in the newspaper because of Hype, Mr. Hype News Morgan himself. Shout out to Hype. Um, but this, it's really more so that, right? It's not like Luffy took anything besides the Poneglyph, which we still don't know, if I remember correctly, if Diesel, the truck dude, the train, he might as well have had a train smile fruit. That's how trash he was. But when him and Brule were aware of Brooke having a copy of Big Mom's Poneglyph, but since Big Mom had stated we're going to take everything anyway, I guess that wouldn't matter. But you get my point. So that may came into play a little later if something else happens to Kaido, even in this hybrid form that we see now, toward that we've already speculated on. Everyone has because of how Zoan's working to begin with. So now that we see that, the despair of Kaido, like I've been saying, chapter after chapter, that should be incoming, it's finally here. Because even when he lifted Onigashima, right, and all that, the despair, as far as I was concerned, was more on the citizens of Wano and not the supernova. Them lifting the island, to me, doesn't really change the fight much. Other than the civilian damage that the leverage that they would have. Like, hey, if you guys just don't stop, I'm just gonna drop the island on the flower capital, which he was gonna do anyway. But I don't think that's something that Luffy would be okay with happening. So, um, I'm not sure if we see a debris situation. I don't know if Fujitora's around, but even if they destroy Onigashima, it's going to be a lot of collateral damage. But given the damage that Wano received in the beginning of the story through the Mountain Boar incident when he ran wild, I don't think that was on the Flower Capital though. It might have been. I don't remember off the top of my head. But chapter 961, I believe, when King, the situation where the bandits stole the boar and all that. Remember, a lot of that stuff got destroyed, and even in the shots we've seen since then of that area, they look normal. And then remember, nobody died, so I'm not sure if the island getting destroyed above the capital may have the same ramifications, right? So I don't know what the threat level actually is for the fight regarding the supernova themselves, because Kid might not care, right? And even Law might pretend he doesn't care, but if you a straw hat, you're not okay with innocent people dying in your fights. They just don't get down like that unless you're a bad guy. Like it's just not what they're on, right? So Kaido and these attacks, right? These the mythos of the dragon is upon us, which it has been for quite some time, but even more so now, right? Even going all the way back to uh, things that have to do with Zoro and the wanted one shot and all the stuff that we already have been talking about for years and years now, right? I just didn't think it was going to get this parallel, like with Zoro's attack and, you know, things of that nature. So we see these weather based attacks, which I'm probably going to have to do a whole nother discussion video on weather in particular with uh, what I think about conquerors, right? Because every conquerors clash we've seen in the series has had an influence on the weather. And some characters have an influence on weather due to their fruit, but it might just be a thing where even if you're not a devil fruit user, your ability, your how can I say this? Your will to make things succumb to you is not only exclusive to weaker humans, right? We've seen the effect on non physical objects. Unless you want to follow the assumption that Whitebeard's ship also had a Clobotomin, so Haki probably would affect it a certain way too. But that would be the only reach out there that I could see for that. So in situations like with that's been speculated, like with Dragon, right? Yeah, Dragon, Aokiji, and Akainu, but that's kind of different because they have Logia, Elemental. Aokiji is technically not Elemental, right? Because there's the ability to chill. It's the chill fruits, not the ice fruit. But you get the point. Same with someone like Kizaru, who are they're more elemental based, like Enel. where you would expect them to have weather manipulation to a certain extent. Even Sabo now with the Maramara, you would kind of expect those things, but it could just be strong characters have that influence. But I do think it would require conquerors. So these wind gusts and stuff that, even though they tie into the mythos of what dragons are and how they move, right? Um, it still wouldn't be that far fetched if, even without Kaido being a dragon or having a mythical zone or any of that, and he was still the same strength, he would be able to do similar, um, have similar effects on the weather. So I do think that's going to tie in a little later in the series. It's just not as important now. I just wanted to touch up on that for a few seconds. And Law, I know I'm kind of over the place, but there's certain things I just want to talk to it about at the end because it may take a bit and it involves world building. So I kind of just want to talk about the fight stuff and the character interactions for now. Law, I know you gave me what I asked for because just last week, right? I said I want to see Law go head to head with Big Mom because of how I think their fruit abilities would work against each other, right? And we see that. And I give Law credit for having the um, testicular density of hockey in that area to actually get close to Big Mom. I was not expecting any of them besides Luffy because of the way he fights to actually get that close to Big Mom. That was wild, right? My issue was him using Gamma Knife on Kaido, but Counter Shock on Big Mom. That's low key disrespectful. Not only that, if you know she has weather abilities, weather manipulation abilities through the homies, with Zeus and Prometheus, it just seems like elemental based attacks, like something like Counter Shock, doesn't seem like. I don't know what he was thinking, you know? So maybe Law did something else that we're not aware of, or he just thought it would work, or. Because think about it, man. Counter Shock couldn't take out Doflamingo, right? So what is it gonna do to Big Mom? Nothing. She can control lightning. She touches Zeus all the time. Like, well, not all the time, but you get what I mean. Like what she did to Judge when she thunderclapped him, she reached into Zeus and grabbed lightning. So I don't think just because of what Nami, I'm not buying it, But shout out to him for getting in and out of there because one hit from Big Mom, he's out of there. Not out of the fight, but that's even Luffy when he was practicing Rio, right? And Big Mom was in her Lin state. We've seen what happened to him. So I still don't think the other supernova. I give Law credit; he does have endurance, but contrary to what is perceived by some people in the community about Law, where he's similar to Kakashi. But if you look back through Dressrosa, he shouldn't have made it. And the only thing that you could argue is his arm with Man Cherry, but the rest of that was pure endurance. So his endurance is actually his stamina, even with room being depleted with him, using his fruit ability to a level that he, as far as we know, hadn't had to in the series. He was fine. So, with that being the case, I feel like because Big Mom's power is clearly charged, because she made a big statement about her charging her powers prior to the fight, that's why she didn't have time to scrub around with Marco, however you want to put that, right? She didn't have time for a first commander. So, that just tells you how serious Big Mom is taking this, even when she's joking around. And I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that Law did that, but shine on him because he's now attacked to Yonko like directly close to their. It's about as close as you can get. So shout out to Law for being on that. And then we see Killer, right? Because in this chapter we see Zoro go in again. Now the last time we seen the setup for not a one shot, but Big Mom was getting sweaty, right? And however people want to interpret Kaido, did he dodge or did he not dodge? Um, Listen, man, Kaido might want to die, but he wasn't gonna eat that. He was not going to eat that because it's time. I've been saying since the scabbards started fighting Kaido that I hope people don't get it messed up about Zoro. Zoro's not the Scabbers, okay? Not that the Scabbers are trash or nothing like that, but with the exception of the clash we've seen with Denjiro, right? There's nobody that would really tell me, even if you don't like Zoro, that you think any of the Scabbers are as strong as he is. They might have known Oden and their um, ability to draw out Odin's aura and their attack obviously would you would think be greater than Zoro's, but I think Enma kind of just neutralizes that, right? But I'm not. Are we surprised he cut him? As you shouldn't be, right? It was pretty much written in stone, and then with the lore with dragons and Zoro in particular, and it was funny too because I was watching Kenshin over the weekend. I usually watch or reread Kenshin maybe once every 2 or 3 years or something. I had on a big Kenshin kick, and even in the Shishio fight, when it comes to the Mythos dragons, right? Something that was cool. I don't think Oda's taken from this. This is just typical, right? Dragon mythology. Remember when he was fighting Shishio, and Shishio blocks the Amakekiru Ryu no Hirameki. I believe I said that right. It's been a minute since I've actually verbalized that, but you know what I mean. Hidden Mitsurugi style Ryu. And Shishio blocks it. But the way Kenshin is turning, right, creates this negative pressure differential, if you will, aka vacuum, that draws Shishio in, right? Remember that part. And the narration that they're giving at the time, they show a picture of an Azure Dragon, which is interesting, right? Even though these series are technically tied through Oda in one way or another, right? And it was saying something to the effect that basically, I don't remember verbatim, but a dragon attacking you, right? The concept is even if the dragon misses, the sheer winds will immobilize you, and then its claws will tear you apart. You know what part I'm talking about? And they start playing the cool music. You know what I'm talking about if you know Kenshin. But it's interesting because now we get in this chapter, and then if you want to bring up Gyarados and Magikarp, because Kaido used Twister, which, from what I remember, we had a low base power. It could only make people flinch. You couldn't really do anything with Twister. We see Kaido use that, and then we see Zoro kind of look like, "Hey, man, I've been using Twister for a long time now. You know, let me show you how it's done, son. We out here, boy. Zoro D Sword, boy." Even earlier, right when he used the destructive Gale Wind or whatever it's called, what took off Kiku's arm, and Zoro was just like, "Why waste my? What is that?" You know, Kaido, try harder, Kaido. That's how I feel like Zoro's taking this. Like, try harder, Kaido. He's out here, but we see um, that even though he can cut Kaido, it's not like it was some gaping gash, right? Um, it's enough to damage Kaido though, and then Killer, his response like, "Oh, he penetrated the scales." And then in my mind, when I'm reading that, I'm like, "Well, wait a minute, Killer. Don't change up that energy now because from what I remember, just a chapter ago, after you did a little stunting, but even before then, you were telling Zoro, like, well, you know, Zoro Juro, if I would have had my Punishers, I would have gave you that work." So I was like, whatever you say, fam, man, it is what it is. And it's similar to a sentence that Zoro said before, like, and it's funny because even in the movie, right, some of the movies, something that's consistent with Zoro is even though he's going to be the master of the Sontai Ryu, which, as far as we know, he's the progenitor of that specific technique, if you will. Um, he does. I don't think he take like he knows that's it when he's in his strongest form, right? His form that he created. He doesn't seem to take it that serious to where him using anything. I honestly think this is not just Zoro hype. Even without his swords, Enma being different for obvious reasons, Zoro's still formidable. He's made it clear a couple of times during the series that losing his swords doesn't even mean an L for him. Like, even if you want to joke about the Davy fight back stuff with Sanji, it's just like, look, man, swords or not, I'm still gonna wash you, you know. So just to find it interesting, like even with Mihawk and Ryuma, Mihawk didn't really show disrespect towards Santoyu that much. He was just like, okay, whatever. But even Ryuma, and I brought this up in my last video, that Ryuma calls it a circus act. You know, and it's like Zoro didn't even take any slights from that. He's just like, okay, whatever. Because remember, he never says he wants to be the master of the Santaryu. He wants to be the world's, greatest swordsman, strongest swordsman, however you want to word that title. They're the same to me. I don't think you could be one without the other. So, you know, I just find it funny that these other characters, like, we don't get to see the Supernova interact, right? And they've never fought around each other in this fashion because no one has. This is something no one's ever done that we've seen, right? With the exception of Kid going after Shanks, whatever happened, right, that cost him his arm. The same way, Shanks lost his arm, probably. Maybe not a Sea King, but something happened to him. Might have been the monkey. Who knows? I don't trust the monkey. That's what Lucky Roo. You know, he might look like Chim Chim from Speed Racer, but I don't trust him. He probably has hands too, like Hattori. He probably has hands. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, this is the first time we've seen anybody go after Yonko specifically. Um, so this is all something new to everybody in the series, and especially them, right? Because they've never done any of this before. Luffy tried on his own, but we've seen how that went, and that wasn't really taken seriously by Kaido. So even though Kaido's still joking around, I think he's past the point where he looks at them at the same way he looked at them when he told them they were playing little pirate games. He seriously, I think he really understands, like, oh no, okay, I see y'all, but I'm still gonna smack everybody out here because I'm one clap Kaido. And why am I one clap Kaido? Because one, and you're done. That's it, son. That's just what it is. But something else, because this revolves Devil Fruits. We see after Zoro, the reason why Zoro cuts Kaido in the first place has to do with him eating Luffy. Which after, Zoro saved Luffy again, just like with Kuma and any other time, because Zoro and Luffy don't usually fight near each other. They don't get to witness their own fights together. But anytime Zoro is around, if you're gonna touch the king, man, you already know the castle is coming to rook you. It's just what it is. The bishop is out here, all of that. Even the knight, whatever any piece you want to name, man. When it comes to the King, Zoro comes through. That's just what it is. Even with Big Mom. Oh, Big Mom gonna slice you? Nah, not on my watch. Boral Breath? Not on my watch. You know what I mean? It's been consistent. And he would have done the same in Dressrosa had he been. I just like it's to me. It's consistent with this character. He's the vice captain. That's what he does. He makes sure that even when the king steps, I don't want to say Luffy stepped out of bounds. He should have been more efficient with his hockey, but we know that's his one weakness, right? Other than extreme temperatures, more so probably cold and heat because of Red Hawk and what I think he'll be able to do in the future. Shout out to my video about Luffy I did about a year ago because some of that stuff is actually in play right now, which is interesting because I was when I had the idea for that video, it was even before then, right? I mean, a lot of us think about these things, but it's just cool seeing it now occur in the story. Not verbatim, but pretty much going along with what we thought. And to me, that's good because it means one, that these things aren't by accident with Luffy. Like, he does get help because he's the main character, whatever, whatever. But if you think about, like I said before, he's had a devil fruit longer than he hasn't had one. And all these top tiers are at least 20 to 30, almost 40 years older than Luffy. So he's at where he's supposed to be. No, I'm not disappointed or hyping him. And him getting knocked out of Gear Fourth doesn't really make me think any different because if you look at the way the Katakuri fight was structured, we still understand one thing about Luffy, whether you want to admit it or not. Right now, the way his character is based, he's not made for these legendary fights that last days and days. You can tell me what you want about Cracker, but that had more to do with Nami than Luffy, and he probably would have had to use Snake Man to beat Cracker. He's still with I think he's still with a B cracker, but he can't. He's just the hockey efficiency, man. I just don't see him doing it. Like 10 days, nah. That's out of the question. It just is. He's just not built in that way. That's why he has destructive power because he can't yet. I do think with Rio helping you master your hockey efficiency, I feel like there's a tie to mastering your devil fruit in there too, because it has to do with control, right? He can control his devil fruit better than he control hockey because he's still new to hockey. Sabo, it might be different, a different learning curve because Sabo had hockey before he had a devil fruit. So I do think there might be a difference with the character based on which one you acquired first, right? I just think logically, if you learned hockey first, things might be a little easier for you than vice versa. Um, it's just that, well, maybe not because Luffy was mixing hockey with devil fruit pretty early. I don't know. I'll have to think back about it. I just feel like maybe that's just a headcanon thing. It just would make more sense to me because it's hockey is all about control. All right. I get into that another time, but I just thought it was interesting. What else is interesting is because it involves devil fruits. If Kaido would have ate Luffy, what would have happened to him? Now we know through Big Mom's backstory that you can consume a devil fruit user and acquire their ability, which is why I think Big Mom, for the most part, just doesn't eat random people like the way she was shown to imply to not have an issue with cannibalism, right? But I do think the Soul Fruit gives you two abilities that were not really shown that you can kind of guess, and it's one based on how her reaction to Zoro, like I said in the previous chapter with Enma, she can see souls more than likely. It's not really said, but I'm sure that's how it works. Like on some Shinigami Eye type stuff, Ryuk, just because I still think Big Mom's fruit was the first devil fruit, if not one of the first, because of the way it functions and how frequency in the series. I've repeated this stuff before, but that's why I think that way, and I haven't seen anything to make me think different yet. I'm always open to change my mind as information is presented, but at this time, that's how I think the so fruit works, right? Um, does Kaido being a different species have any factor to this? Because we know Blackbeard can have two fruits, but I still think personally that has more to do with the Yami Yami than it does Blackbeard's. Whatever his abnormal physiology is, right, that's going on with him, I don't even know if that's the reason why he can hold two. And I think it's not just that the Yami Yami can only negate Devil Fruit abilities, right? Because even during his fight with Blackbeard, we've seen one thing, and I don't know if they're. I mean, with Whitebeard, I don't know how that's gonna work later because it might not matter. But I still think like he can use Kurozu, right? But he can't negate your fruit ability without touching you. Specifically from the way that it's implied it's his right hand. Because even with Whitebeard, remember when Whitebeard quaked him, he's put his Bicento in the hand on the hand of Blackbeard so he couldn't move his hand, his right hand, and then he grabbed his neck and then he bubble quaked him. Remember how that sequence functioned. So why was I bringing that up? I had a reason. Oh, just talking about the yami yami in general and negating devil fruits. So the fruit itself, you touching Blackbeard doesn't negate your fruit ability, or else he shouldn't have been able to bubble quake Blackbeard, and Blackbeard can't become intangible, right? I think that might be some dark matter, sciencey stuff because of how they've shown Logias are almost like 3D versions of Paramecia. So think of his fruit like a 3D version of Fujitori's fruit and some space stuff, right? But I still think like if Kaido would have ate Luffy and Luffy died, does Kaido die too? Or do we find out what we think about Devil Fruits is wrong? Or not really explained fully because I think Oda's waiting on Vegapunk. Just a thought, you know. And I'm gonna do a whole nother thing because I see I'm running along on Cypher Pole. So that's the next video I'm going to do, just talking about Cypher Pole because that's more world building and I feel like it deserves its own discussion. I just want to talk about everything else in the chapter, but obviously Cypher Pole is very important in where they're placed in the story. And not only that, talking about the devil fruit transference thing, I'm going to bring that up again because we see Orochi's still dead and no one's took his fruit. And we know how this works, right? These Yonko should understand how devil fruit transference works. But I'm going to get into that in the next one you're going to see after this video. So it was cool talking to y'all. I might drop a prediction video today or tomorrow unless the chapter comes out early. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.